Part 1. The plane ticket I didn't have. I stood in front of the airline check-in counter, clutching the text/RP 327 million, approximately $21,000 proof of transfer in my pocket, when my own son leaned in and whispered, "I'm sorry, Dad, your ticket wasn't purchased. You should just go home." Behind him, the rest of the family waved cheerfully, dragging their carry-ons toward the departure gate. My name is Amran Santosa, 68 years old, a widower, and a retired civil engineer who spent 35 years building bridges and highways all over West Java. My house in Dago Atas, Bandung, a spacious area up in the hills, was a legacy from my late wife, Siti. It was huge, too big for one person. But I never considered selling it. Every corner of that house still held the echo of Siti's laughter, the scent of her cooking, and a warmth that money couldn't buy. Siti passed away 4 years ago from complications of diabetes and heart disease. The doctor said she had held on long enough, but for me, time with her was never enough. Since her passing, I felt adrift. The kids rarely visited, and the grandkids were busy with school. I understood. That's just how life goes. So I never complained. I simply lived my days with a simple routine: morning prayers, reading the Quran, chatting with the neighbors, and occasionally sending allowance money to my grandkids via bank transfer. After the major holidays, Lebaran or Eid al-Fitr, the Muslim celebration at the end of Ramadan this year, I tried to suggest something different. While having dinner at my eldest son Arif's house, I said, "How about we all take a vacation to Bali? It's been too long since we went anywhere together. Grandpa wants to take Alia and Ilham to see the beach." My grandchildren's eyes immediately lit up. Alia, 7 years old, jumped up and shouted, "Yay, we're going to Bali!" Ilham, her 5-year-old brother, clapped along, even though he probably didn't know where Bali was. Arif smiled broadly. He patted my shoulder and said, "Wow, that's a great idea, Dad. It has been a while since we had a family vacation. You just transfer the money to me, and I'll handle all the arrangements. It'll be easier if one person manages all the bookings." I nodded. Arif always seemed competent and organized. He worked for a consulting firm, often giving presentations to big clients. I trusted him to handle everything well. The vacation was planned for 7 people: Arif, his wife Dewey, Alia, Ilham, my sister-in-law Tantania, Dewey's father Omjaya, and me. A week later, we gathered again at Arif's house to discuss the details. At the dining table, Dewey spread out a resort brochure. It was the Gria Sari Resort in Nusa Dua, with a photo of a pool overlooking the ocean. Alia and Ilham were already talking excitedly about playing in the sand and looking for seashells. I helped choose a package that included snorkeling and tickets to a Kecak traditional dance performance in Uluwatu. It felt good. It felt like family. Dewey mentioned, as she poured me some tea, "It'll be nice if you get your own room, Dad, right? So the kids won't bother you. You can rest peacefully." I smiled. "Whatever you all decide, Dewey. The important thing is that we get to be together." 3 weeks before the departure, Arif called. "Dad, just transfer the total to my account, okay? It's about text/RP 327 million pounds. That covers the plane tickets, a 5-night hotel stay, food, and a rental car there. It's easier from one account, so we don't have to keep checking back and forth for confirmation." I went to the bank the next day. The money came from my retirement savings, mostly the proceeds from my last project before retiring, plus funds I'd set aside over the years. I transferred it all without hesitation. This was for my family. This was for my grandchildren. Arif didn't give me any booking confirmations, but I didn't ask. I trusted him. He was my son. Why would I be suspicious? In the weeks leading up to the trip, I started preparing. I bought new beach sandals at the local market. I replaced my old reading glasses because the frames were loose. I even set aside a text/5 million, approximately $320 in cash to buy local Balinese souvenirs for my neighbors and friends at the mosque. Every night, I imagined what it would be like to play in the water with Alia and Ilham. I wanted to teach them to swim, just like I taught Arif years ago. Departure day finally arrived. I woke up at 3 a.m. I said my tahajjud prayers, late-night voluntary prayer, longer than usual. I prayed for a smooth journey, for all of us to be safe and healthy, and for this to become a beautiful memory that could fill the void after City was gone. After the dawn prayers, subuh, I showered, put on my favorite white baju koko, traditional Indonesian shirt, and waited on the porch with a small suitcase I'd packed the night before. The car service arrived at 5 a.m. I got in with Arif's family. The atmosphere was lively. Alia sat on my lap, telling me about the dolphins that could supposedly leap very high. Ilham was busy playing games on a tablet, occasionally shouting when he won. Dewey and Tante Nia chatted about the breakfast menu at the hotel. Arif sat in the front seat, occasionally checking his phone. I felt happy. This was what I missed: togetherness. The drive to Soekarno-Hatta Airport in Jakarta took about 3 hours. When we arrived, we got out at Terminal 2. The airport was bustling, people rushing with large suitcases, children crying, and flight announcements constantly booming from the speakers. Arif led us toward the airline counter. I walked behind, dragging my small suitcase, occasionally making sure the grandkids didn't wander off. As we neared the check-in counter, I noticed Arif starting to look agitated. He kept opening his phone, typing something, and then putting it back in his pocket. Dewey whispered to him. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but their expressions looked tense. I figured there might be a small issue with the booking. Things like that happen, right? When it was our turn, the agent asked for IDs and the booking code. Arif handed over his ID card and phone. The agent typed on the computer, then frowned. Excuse me, sir, whose names are these bookings under? Arif replied, Arif Santosa, 7 people to Denpasar, Bali. The agent typed again. Sir, the system shows only 6 people. The reservation under the name Arif Santosa was made 2 months ago. My heart started to pound. 6 people. It should be 7. Arif pulled me aside. His face was pale. He whispered, Dad, I'm so sorry, but it seems your ticket was forgotten. It's not in the system. I was silent. My brain struggled to process those words. Forgotten. How could it be forgotten? The text/327 million was supposed to include me too, wasn't it? I went back to the counter and asked the agent to check again. The agent patiently explained that the reservation was indeed only recorded for 6 people: Arif Santosa, Dewey, Alia Santosa, Ilham Santosa, Nia Suryani, Tante Nia, and Jaya Budiono, Om Jaya. My name, Amran Santosa, was not on the list. Where did you book this, sir? If you have a separate booking code, I can check, the agent said. I had nothing. I didn't even know when the tickets were booked. I only know I transferred the money, I said. Dewey approached. She gave a faint smile, but it felt cold. Dad, please don't be upset. Maybe you can follow tomorrow. We're late for boarding now. We'll miss the plane. I looked at her. There was no regret in her eyes. Only the panic of being late for a flight not the panic of leaving me behind. I tried to speak to the agent. Is there still an empty seat on this flight? The agent checked. I'm sorry, sir. Today's flight to Denpasar is completely full. Even tomorrow, there is only one seat in business class. The price is about text p 12 million. Approx 770 text p 12 million. I had already given text p 327 million. That money should have been enough for everyone. Arif was already standing near the departure gate. He waved as if signaling me not to follow. Dewey quickly pulled Alia and Ilham. My grandchildren didn't even get a chance to say goodbye. They were just quickly pulled away. Their suitcases were swiftly dragged toward the gate. Omjaya and Tantania followed from behind without turning back. I stood alone amidst the airport crowds. My small suitcase was still by my feet. People rushed by. No one paid attention to an old man standing frozen with a blank expression. On the departure screen, I saw the words, "Final call, Jimbar Trig to Denpasar." No incoming calls, no WhatsApp messages, just a deafening silence. I walked to a waiting chair and sat down. My hands trembled as I opened my mobile banking app. I checked the transaction history, a transfer of text Rp 327 million to Arif's account on September 23rd. Status successful. No reversal, no refund, nothing. The money was gone, and my ticket was never purchased in the first place. Part 2. The Truth in the Files. When I returned and opened the door to my house, the living room light was still on. On the dining table, the thermos and 2 mugs were still sitting there, as if waiting for someone. But there was no sound, no one. And clearly no one was waiting for me. The journey home to Bandung felt like an endless nightmare. I sat in the back seat of the car service, staring blankly out the window. The driver who picked me up was Pak Budi, the same man who had driven us that morning. He asked, in a friendly tone, "How was the vacation, sir? You're back so fast." I just gave a thin smile and quietly replied, "Postponed it." He didn't ask again. Perhaps he saw something in my face that made him choose silence. It was almost time for the evening prayer, Maghrib, when I got home. I paid the fare, thanked him, and then walked inside with heavy steps. The house felt quieter than usual. I went straight to the bathroom, performed my ablutions, and then prayed the Maghrib prayer alone in the small prayer room in the corner of the house. Afterward, I sat for a long time in the living room, just staring at the wall covered with framed family photos. My wedding photo with Siti, photos of little Arif at his kindergarten graduation, and photos of the grandchildren during the holidays last year. Everyone was smiling. Everyone looked happy. I got up and lit a small candle in front of Siti's photo. Her face was still beautiful, even years later. Mum, I whispered softly. I don't understand why this happened." There was no answer, only the candle flame flickering gently. I couldn't sleep peacefully that night. I was up by 5 a.m. After the morning prayers, I immediately opened my desk drawer in the living room. Inside, there was a thick brown folder labeled Bali Vacation August. I opened the folder piece by piece. There were printouts of the hotel brochure, my handwritten notes about the itinerary plan, and the texts Rp 327 million proof of transfer that I had printed from the ATM. Everything was there. Everything was complete, except for my plane ticket. I started to think clearly. If my ticket was never purchased, then I was never intended to go from the beginning. Arif booked 6 tickets 2 months ago, before I even transferred the money. That meant he already knew. Dewey already knew. They all knew. Then I remembered something. A year ago, Arif had asked me to sign some documents. He said it was for renewing the vehicle registration, BPKB, for his car. I signed without reading the details. I trusted he wouldn't do anything malicious, but now that trust was starting to crack. I rummaged through an old drawer in the archive cabinet. There, I found a copy of a contract I had signed. It wasn't for a car registration renewal after all. It was a power of attorney to sell my old motorcycle, my beloved Yamaha RX King, which I had kept for 20 years. The motorcycle was sold without my knowledge. I never received the money. My head started to spin. I sat down again, grabbed an old bank book, and started taking notes. All the financial help I had ever given Arif. Text: 98 million. Approx $6,300 for the down payment on his house 5 years ago. Text: Marpo, 12 million for Alia's tuition at a private elementary school. Text: 25 million for the capital of Dewey's small clinic, which she claimed she wanted to open for her dental practice. Text: 12 million for car repairs, which he said was severely damaged. Not to mention the monthly /text/p £3 million I sent for 7 months when Arif was temporarily unemployed. I calculated the total, more than text /p 240 million. Plus approx. $15,300. This didn't even include the text /p 327 million for the vacation. All that money was never returned. There was never a sincere thank you. Just empty promises that were never kept. Suddenly my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered. Hello, Pak Amran. Mr. Amran. This is from Griya Sari Resort in Bali. We'd like to confirm the reservation under the name Arif Santosa for August 23rd to 28th. Is there anything you'd like to change? I paused for a moment. Then I said in a calm voice, yes, I want to cancel everything. The agent on the other end sounded confused. Cancel everything, sir? If you cancel now, there is a cancellation fee of text /14 million. I replied without hesitation. That's fine, just cancel it. After hanging up, I felt something shift inside my chest. Not anger, not revenge, but clarity. I wouldn't stay silent. I wouldn't let them think I was weak. That afternoon, I called Pak Darman, an old notary public who had helped with the house deeds when City was still alive. He was a good friend, someone I could trust. I told him, Darman, I need consultation about a will. Pak Darman immediately replied, when do you want to meet, Amran? Can you come tomorrow morning? I agreed. The next morning, I went to his office in the Dago area. The room was small but neat. On the wall hung diplomas and awards. Pak Darman greeted me with a warm hug. Amran, long time no see. You look thin. Are you well? I offered a bitter smile. I'm well, Darman, just having some family problems. I told him everything, from start to finish, about the failed vacation, the lost money, the betrayal I felt. Pak Darman listened seriously. When I finished, he took a deep breath. Amran, this is not a small issue. Your own biological son did this. But you need to know you have full rights over your assets. If you want, we can change your will. You can decide where your assets will go. I nodded. That's what I want. I don't want Arif to get anything. Pak Darman opened his laptop and started typing. We need all the complete documents. Your ID, house deed, the land deed for the property in Lembang, bank books, insurance policies. Did you bring everything? I pulled a large folder from my bag. I prepared everything yesterday. He smiled slightly. You are serious about this, Amran? I looked at him. They started it, Darman. The process took 3 hours. I decided to transfer the ownership of the house in Dago to the Kurdas Street Children Foundation, a charity that City had supported when she was alive. The land in Lembang would be donated to a civil engineering scholarship program at ITB Bandung Institute of Technology in the name of City and Amran. My remaining pension funds would go to the Almawada Elderly Care Home. All assets, all wealth, not a single item would fall into Arif's hands. Pak Darman printed the documents and asked me to sign them in front of 2 witnesses. One was his secretary, Ibu Sinta. The other was Pak Harto, a young lawyer working in the same office. Everything was legally sound, with no loophole for appeal. I also asked Pak Darman to contact an old friend of his who used to work at the KPK, Corruption Eradication Commission. His name was Pak Budi Santoso, a retired investigator who was now an independent legal consultant. I need someone who can help me trace where my money went, I said. Pak Darman immediately called him. Budi, an old friend, needs your help. Can you meet him tomorrow? Pak Budi agreed. The meeting with Pak Budi took place at a small cafe near the town square in Bandung. He arrived wearing a black jacket and carrying a laptop bag. He was quiet, but his eyes were sharp. I recounted the full chronology. Pak Budi took notes, occasionally asking for small details like the date of the transfer, the account number, and the bank name. When I was finished, he said, Pak Amran, I can help trace this transaction, but I need access to your account, and if possible, your son's account number too. I gave him everything. 3 days later, Pak Budi called. Pak Amran, I have the results of the text/AP £327 million you transferred. Only text/AP 180 million was used for the hotel and tickets. The remaining text/80 million went into Dewey's account to pay off a personal installment loan. Text 15 million was used to buy a new phone and a smart TV. The rest is unaccounted for. I tightly gripped my phone. My voice trembled as I replied, Email all the evidence to me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the back porch, staring at the sky. The full moon was shining brightly. I remembered City's words from long ago. Amran, you are too kind. Someone will take advantage of you. I had always laughed it off then. I thought kindness would never be betrayed by my own family. I was wrong. I opened a small drawer on my work desk and found an old handwritten note from Dewey. The note was left at my house when they came 2 months ago for the family meeting. The title was Vacation Meeting Notes, Tantania's House. It clearly stated, if Dad comes, it might be too much trouble. We should just book 6 tickets for now. I read that sentence over and over. Too much trouble. They called me too much trouble. I was the one who raised Arif. I was the one who paid for his education. I was the one who helped him buy his house. And now I was considered a burden. Then I recalled something. 2 years ago, on Arif's birthday, I went to his house with a cake and a gift, a classic-style wall clock. I had secretly installed a small surveillance camera inside the clock. Not because I was suspicious, but because I wanted to know what their life was like when I wasn't around. I wanted to know if my grandchildren were happy. The camera was still active, still recording. And I suddenly remembered that all the recordings were automatically saved to a cloud storage connected to my phone. I opened the app and played a recording from 2 months ago June 23rd. That night, there was a meeting at Arif's house. I saw Arif, Dewey, Tantania, and Jaya sitting in the dining room. They were discussing something. I turned up the volume. Arif's voice was clear. If Dad comes to Bali, none of us can relax. It'll be tiring, too much trouble. Just let him stay home. He's old anyway. Dewey replied with a small laugh. We'll just pretend to forget his ticket. Besides, who wants to take someone who's had a minor stroke on vacation? Stroke? I had never had a stroke. I was healthy. I could still walk fine, perform my 5 daily prayers, and even go up and down the stairs without help. But in their eyes, I had already become a burden. I replayed the video once, twice, 3 times, until I memorized every word they said. Their voices cut deeper than a knife. This was no longer just about the money. This was about respect. This was about the dignity they had trampled on. I sat there silently, then opened the small safe inherited from Citi. Inside, there was a white envelope that I had always thought only contained shopping lists. But when I opened it, it turned out to be a list of debts. Not mine, but debts that I had secretly paid off for others. Arif's bank debt that I quietly paid so he wouldn't face penalties. Dewey's debt to a college friend that I settled so they wouldn't be embarrassed. Everything was there, complete with dates and amounts. A total of nearly text, Rp 150 million. Approx. $9,600, and not a single penny had ever been repaid. I woke up that morning with a firm decision. I would not stay silent. I would document everything, every single rupiah I had ever given, every broken promise, every lie they had built with a smile. I pulled out all the financial documents from the archive cabinet, old bank books, yellowed receipts, transfer slips neatly kept in plastic folders, even the empty holiday money envelopes where I had written the grandchildren's names in black marker. I spread them all out on the dining table. Then I started documenting meticulously. Part 3. The Unraveling and the New Will. I started documenting meticulously. The down payment for Arif's house 5 years ago. Text. 98 million. At the time, Arif said, Dad, if you don't help, who will? We're family. When we're financially stable, we'll definitely pay you back. Not a single cent has been returned to this day. The loan to buy a Toyota Avanza in 2018. Text, 75 million. Approx. $4,800. Arif said he needed the car to take the kids to school. He promised, Don't worry, Dad. My salary has increased. It'll be paid off in 3 years at most. But all I know is that car has now been upgraded to a newer model. The loan was never mentioned again. Ilham's delivery expenses. Text, 15 million. Approx. 960 hours. I paid everything at the hospital because Dewey claimed her national health insurance was having issues. Yet when I quietly asked the hospital administration staff, they said there were no issues at all. Their policy was active. But my money was already paid. Renovation of Arif's kitchen. Tawash text siwa pawai. 17 million. Plaza prox $100. Dewey claimed the gas stove was leaking and the kitchen wall was cracked. A real danger. But when I visited 2 months later, they hadn't just renovated the kitchen. The living room sofa was replaced and the bedroom had a new air conditioner installed. All with my money. Alia's annual tuition at the private elementary school, text, 12 million for 3 years. Total text, 36 million. Palm sounds approx. $2,300. Arif said the school was excellent, with a bilingual program and complete extracurricular activities. I agreed because I wanted my granddaughter to have the best education. But what I didn't know was that the school also had a scholarship program, meaning Aliyah could have received a 50% discount. Arif never told me. The monthly financial aid during Arif's unemployment text for 3 million per month for 7 months. Total text 21 million. As approx $1,750. At the time, Arif said he had been laid off and was looking for a new job. I couldn't bear to see my grandchildren lack necessities, so I sent the money every month. I later found out from Arif's neighbors that he hadn't actually been laid off. He had resigned because he didn't get along with his boss and had been working freelance with decent pay, but he never told me. I recalculated everything. The total assistance I had given over the last 6 years was more than text, SAS, RP, £240 million, not including the texts, so masterful 327 million for the vacation, which was just a few days ago. The grand total was close to text, up 600 million, plus approx, plus $38,000. My pension money, which should have been enough for me to live comfortably for the rest of my life, was now down to a quarter of its original amount. I closed the notebook and stared at Siti's photo on the wall. Ma, you always told me I was too kind. Now I understand what you meant. My voice was hoarse and my eyes started to well up, but I held back. This was not the time to cry. It was the time to act. I remembered Dewey's words in the video recording. She called me minor stroke old man. I stood up and paced the living room to prove I was still healthy. My legs were strong, my mind was clear. I didn't need a cane, and I didn't need anyone's help to bathe or eat. I could still take care of myself, but in their eyes, I had become a burden that needed to be eliminated. That afternoon, I returned to Pak Daman's office. This time, I brought all the evidence I had collected. Pak Daman received it seriously. He read through everything, occasionally shaking his head slowly. Amran, this falls under financial manipulation. If you want, we can pursue legal action. I shook my head. Not yet, Daman. I want them to know first. I want them to feel what I feel. Pak Daman nodded in understanding. All right, let's proceed with the will first. The documents are ready. We just need your signature in front of the notary witnesses and a doctor. A doctor? I asked. Pak Daman explained, yes, to prove that you are in sound physical and mental health when making this will. That way, it cannot be contested later on the grounds that you were senile or coerced. The next day, I went to my long-time general practitioner, Dr. Mirza. He was a kind young doctor who often engaged in light conversation with his elderly patients. I explained the purpose of my visit. Dr. Mirza performed a full examination, blood pressure, blood sugar, a simple memory test, and even a reflex test. The results were all normal. He wrote a certificate of health and stamped it with a legal seal. Pak Amran is very healthy. There is no indication of a stroke or any mental disorder, he wrote clearly. With that letter, I returned to Pak Daman's office. This time, the will signing was conducted very formally. Pak Daman as the main notary, Ibu Sinta and Pak Hato as witnesses, and Dr. Mirza, who attended to strengthen the legality. I read the contents of the will aloud. I, Amran Santosa, being of sound mind and body, declare that all my assets upon my death shall be allocated as follows. The house in Dago Atas will be given to the Kurta Street Children Foundation. The land in Lembang will be donated to the Bandung Institute of Technology Civil Engineering Scholarship Program in the name of Siti and Amran. The remaining pension funds will go to the Al-Mawada Elderly Care Home. The life insurance policy will be dispersed for the construction of a prayer room in my hometown. All assets, without exception, will not fall into the hands of Arif Santosa or his descendants. The room was silent. Pak Darman typed all my statements. The document was printed, signed, stamped, and stored in a sealed envelope. One copy for me, one for Pak Darman, and another for a third party. Everything was legal, leaving no room for a lawsuit. I also asked Pak Darman to register the will with the National Will Registry System. That way, if anyone tried to forge another will later, the system would immediately detect it. Pak Darman smiled faintly. "You are truly serious, Amran." I looked at him. They started it. A few days later, Pak Budi Santoso contacted me again. This time, he brought surprising new information. "Pak Amran, I've got additional data. It turns out Arif once received aid funds from the community mosque for a social program. The amount was about Plasha text Shah Amuhu 20 million. It's approx. $1,300. But the use of those funds was never reported to the neighborhood committee. I suspect the money went into a private pocket. I felt my blood boil. Not only against me, but he dared to embezzle social funds. Pak Budi, gather all the evidence. I want to know the extent of my son's corruption. Pak Budi nodded. Understood, sir. A week later, Pak Budi came to my house with his laptop and a flash drive containing critical files. He showed suspicious transactions in Arif's account. There was an incoming transfer of text to around £20 million from the mosque account last March. Then some was transferred out to Dewey's account and some was used to pay off credit card installments. Not a single rupiah was used for social activities as intended. This is enough for a police report, sir. Misuse of social funds can lead to criminal charges, Pak Budi said. I slowly shook my head. Not yet. I want them to know first what they have done. I want them to see this evidence themselves. Pak Budi also found another more shocking thing. It turned out that Arif had used an account in the name of Alia, my young granddaughter, to transfer a large sum of money. This is illegal, sir. A minor's account cannot be used for business transactions or financial manipulation. This can be reported to the Financial Services Authority. I could only shake my head. How far my son had fallen. That night, I sat alone on the back porch. The sky was clear, studded with stars. I remembered when Arif was small. He was an obedient child, diligent in prayer, and always said goodbye before leaving. Siti loved him very much. He was our hope, but now he had become a stranger to me. Or perhaps I had been too naive all along. I opened the video recording again from the hidden camera in Arif's house. This time, I played a recording from previous months. There was one conversation that made me gasp. Dewey told Arif, if Dad gives us money again, don't tell your siblings. They'll get jealous and ask for some too. Only we should enjoy it. Arif laughed and replied, Dad is easy, Dewey. Just say it's for the grandkids and he'll definitely give it. They saw me as a walking ATM. They never saw me as a father, only a source of money they could squeeze any time. I also found a small note on my work desk, a note written by Siti before she died. On it was the sentence, Amran, when I'm gone, don't be too obedient to the children. They have to learn to be independent. Don't give them everything they ask for. City had warned me, but I didn't listen. I thought love meant giving endlessly. It turned out I was terribly wrong. I wrote a letter to myself, like a message to the future. If they come after reading this, do not open the door. If they cry and apologize, remember everything that has happened. If they say this is for the sake of the grandchildren, remember they have already used the grandchildren's names to steal. Do not be weak. Do not give in. I folded the letter and put it in an envelope. Then I stored it in the drawer with the will documents. Sometime I would need this reminder. Sometime, when my resolve faltered, I would read this letter again. The next morning, I received a WhatsApp message from Dewey. Sukati. It contained photos of their vacation in Bali. Alia and Ilham playing on the beach. Arif snorkeling. Dewey posing in front of a temple. Everyone looked happy. Below the photo was a caption. Super fun trip. Thank God everything went smoothly. There were no words like, thank you, Dad, or sorry, Dad couldn't come. It was as if I had never been part of their plan from the beginning. I didn't reply to the message. I just stared at the phone screen for a long time, then turned it off. Enough. I wouldn't play games anymore. They thought I would remain silent as usual. They were terribly wrong. I would show them that I was not a weak man they could trample on at will. I would show them that there was a price to pay for betrayal. They would step off the plane with bright faces, carrying suitcases, Balinese flowers, and a toy ukulele. They wouldn't know that I was already waiting, not with a hug, but with legal documents and a truth they had buried deep. The truth was about to surface. Part 4. The Airport Confrontation. That morning, I woke up earlier than usual. After the dawn prayers, subuh, were finished, I immediately got ready. I put on the grey baju koko that I used to wear when City was still alive, and a neatly ironed black pechy cap. I wanted to appear calm, controlled, and firm. Not as a victim, but as a man who knew everything and was ready to face them. Pak Daman was already waiting at my house by 8:00 a.m. He brought a thick yellow folder containing a copy of the will, the transaction evidence, the audio recording converted from the surveillance video, and other supporting documents. "Are you sure you want to do this at the airport, Amran?" he asked. I nodded without hesitation. I want them to know, from the very first moment they return, that there is no time left for pleasantries. We left for Sukarno Hatta Airport in Pak Daman's car. The trip took about 3 hours. I didn't talk much along the way. I just stared out the window, watching the busy traffic, the people preoccupied with their own lives. I wondered to myself, had they also been betrayed by their own family? Had they also felt this kind of pain? Upon arrival at the airport, I checked the flight schedule. The plane from Denpasar, Bali, flight GA432, was scheduled to land at 10:00 a.m. Pak Daman and I waited in the international arrivals area near the exit gate typically used by domestic passengers. I stood calmly, clutching the yellow folder tightly. There was no suitcase, no flowers, no smile. Only the flat, prepared expression I had practiced all week. At 10:15 a.m., the automatic doors opened. Passengers began to emerge. And then I saw them. Alia and Ilham ran out first, pulling their small pink and blue suitcases. Behind them were Arif, Dewey, Omjaya, and Tantania. They looked cheerful. Their skin was slightly tanned from the Balinese sun. Dewey's hair was casually tied back with a beach bandana. They looked like a happy family returning from a dream vacation. Alia saw me first. Her eyes sparkled and she ran right over. "Grandpa!" she shouted, hugging my waist. Ilham quickly followed, hugging my leg tightly. I gently returned their embrace. This wasn't their fault. They were just children who knew nothing. I gently stroked Alia's head. "How was the vacation, sweetheart?" Alia answered enthusiastically. "It was so fun, Grandpa. We swam and played in the sand, and I bought a turtle doll." Behind them, Arif stopped. His face immediately changed. He looked shocked to see me standing there. Dewey, walking beside him, also stared at me with a bewildered expression. Omjaya and Tantania stopped, exchanged a quick glance, and then slowly walked towards me. Arif tried to smile, but it was forced and stiff. "Dad, why are you here? Did you come to pick us up too?" His voice was unnaturally casual, but I knew he was panicking. I didn't answer. I just nodded towards Pakdaman, who was standing next to me. Pakdaman stepped forward and handed a sealed envelope to Arif. "Good afternoon. I am Daman Sulisto, a certified notary public. This is a copy of the latest will of Mr. Amran Santosa. It is effective as of yesterday, August 29th. Please read it carefully." Pakdaman's voice was formal, cold, and firm. There was no room for negotiation. Arif took the envelope with a trembling hand. He glanced at me briefly, then frantically broke the seal. Dewey stepped closer, reading over Arif's shoulder. Both of their faces began to turn pale. I could see Dewey biting her lower lip, her hands gripping the strap of the bag slung over her shoulder. Arif read quickly, then stopped at a certain section. His eyes widened. He stared at me with an expression that was hard to describe. Anger, shock, fear, perhaps a mixture of everything. "Dad, what does this mean?" His voice began to shake. I looked at him calmly. "It means exactly what is written there, Arif. None of my assets are for you. Everything has been transferred to foundations, scholarships, and the retirement home. You get nothing." Dewey immediately reacted. "Dad, can't we talk about this? How can you do this over one issue?" Her voice was raised, but still tried to sound polite. I replied flatly, "One issue? You call this one issue? Being abandoned at the airport is just one issue? The texts Iwash RP 327 million that went missing is just one issue?" Omjaya tried to intervene. He stepped forward with his hands raised, as if to calm the situation. "Pak Amran, this is a family matter. It's not good to air this out in public like this. People are watching." I looked at him sharply. "I agree, Omjaya. Family problems should be resolved within the family. But your son-in-law didn't think that way when he left me alone at this very airport a week ago." People started turning their heads toward us. A few stopped, curious about the argument that was heating up, but I didn't care. I had nothing left to protect. My dignity had been trampled. Now it was my turn to speak. Arif started to lose control. He threw the suitcase he was holding, and it slammed onto the floor. His voice rose. "Dad, this is too much. This is all for the grandkids, not for us. What about Alia and Ilham when you're gone? They are still little." I smiled bitterly. "It's precisely because they are still little that I don't want them to learn from parents who lie and steal other people's money." Dewey started to cry. Tears streamed down her face, but for some reason I felt no pity at all. "Dad, if you were angry, you should have told us from the beginning, not like this. Making a will, this is too extreme, Dad." I stared at her intensely. "Dewey, you say I should have told you from the beginning. Okay, let me ask, when you and Arif met at Tantania's house 2 months ago, when you said I was too much trouble and shouldn't come along, did you tell me? When you called me A minor stroke old man, even though I'm perfectly healthy. Did you tell me? Dewey fell silent, her face ashen. Arif looked at me with wide eyes. Dad, how do you know that? I took my phone from my pocket and opened the video file. I played the recording of their conversation at Arif's house. Arif's voice was clearly audible from the phone speaker. If Dad comes to Bali, none of us can relax. It'll be tiring. Too much trouble. Just let him stay home. Then Dewey's voice. We'll just pretend to forget his ticket. I switched off the video. The atmosphere was silent. Arif was speechless. Dewey just looked down, covering her face with her hands. Tante Nia, who had been silent all along, finally spoke in a small voice. Mas Amran, Brother Amran, those were just careless words. They weren't serious. I looked at her sharply. Not serious? Then why isn't my ticket in the system? Why did they only book for 6 people 2 months ago before I even transferred the money? This wasn't careless talk, Tante Nia. This was a plan, a well-laid plan to exclude me. Pak Daman spoke up again. I also want to add, from the financial tracing we conducted of the text slash up 327 million transferred by Pak Amran, only text slash 180 million was used for the vacation. The rest went into the personal account of Dewey for installment payments and some for buying electronics. This is no longer just about a ticket. This is about the abuse of trust and money. Dewey immediately protested. That was for family needs too, not for extravagance. Pak Daman pulled a printout from the yellow folder. Here is the evidence. A transfer of text, £80 million to your account on August 3rd for a private car installment payment. Text, 15 million for the purchase of a new phone and smart TV on August 10th. Which family need was this for? Arif started to panic. He stepped forward, trying to touch my hand. Dad, yes, we were wrong. We admit it. But can't this be settled amicably? Don't let it end like this. We're family. I pulled my hand away. Family doesn't betray family, Arif. Family doesn't leave their father alone at the airport. Family doesn't lie about money. If you still considered yourself my family, you would never have done all of this. Ilham suddenly asked in a small voice, Grandpa, can we still play at Grandpa's house? The question stunned me. I looked at my grandson's innocent face. His round eyes looked up at me full of hope. I knelt down, making myself level with him. I gently stroked his head. Grandpa loves you, Ilham, and Alia too. But Grandpa cannot accept adults who lie. You can come over any time, but don't bring your father and mother. Alia began to cry. She hugged me tightly. Grandpa is mad at Daddy. Why, Grandpa? I couldn't answer. My throat was tight. I just held my grandchild in silence, letting her tears wet my shirt. Arif pulled Alia away from my embrace. That's enough, Alia. Let's go home. Grandpa is angry. He looked at me with eyes full of rage. You think you've won, Dad? We won't stay silent. We will contest this will. We have rights too. I gave a cold smile. Go ahead, but your lawyer will tell you there are no loopholes to win. This will is legally valid. It was made while I was in sound physical and mental health, with notary and doctor witnesses. It is even registered in the national system. You want to waste money on a lawyer? Be my guest. I don't care. Pak Daman added, I have also prepared a report to the police regarding the misuse of social funds from the community mosque that Mas Arif received last year. The text /ARP 20 million that was supposed to be for social activities but went into a private account. If Mas Arif wants to pursue this legally, we are also ready. Arif fell silent, his face pale. Dewey stared at her husband with disbelief. Jaya immediately pulled Arif away. Let's go home first. We'll discuss this at the house. Tante Nia led the grandchildren away, her face full of shame. Before they left, I spoke for the last time. There is one thing you must remember, Arif. I am not the one driving you away. You drove yourself away with your own actions. Remember that, clearly. They walked away, dragging their suitcases with heavy steps. The cheerfulness they had when they exited the arrival's door was gone. Only a heavy silence and blank stares remained. Pak Darman and I walked to the parking lot. In the car, Pak Darman asked, "Do you have any regrets, Amran?" I looked out the window. I would regret it if I had stayed silent, Darman. At least now they know I am not a weak man they can trample on at will. On the way home, my phone vibrated. A WhatsApp message from Arif's number. It was short, but threatening. "You think you've won, Dad? This isn't over." I didn't reply. I just stared at the message for a long time, then locked my phone. The war had just begun, and this time I would not back down. Part 5. The peace that followed the war. The day after the airport confrontation, the atmosphere in Amran's house felt silent, yet also deeply peaceful. His cell phone rang incessantly. He deliberately ignored all calls from Arif or Dewey. He knew what they wanted: a fake apology, crocodile tears, and most importantly, the cancellation of the will. At 10 a.m., Arif, Dewey, and Tante Nia came to the house. They didn't dare to enter. They stood by the gate, pressing the doorbell repeatedly. Amran peeked through the window and saw them. He did not open the door. He simply sent a brief text message to Arif. "I am busy. Speak through Pak Darman." Arif replied in anger, "Dad, you can't do this. We are family, and we will fight this will in court. We have inheritance rights." Amran replied with a single sentence, "See you in court." 2 weeks later, Amran received a court summons. Arif Santosa and Dewey Paramita had officially filed a lawsuit to annul the will. They accused Amran of not being in sound mental condition when the will was made, and of being coerced by friends who wished to seize his assets. Amran smiled bitterly. They had truly chosen the path of war. The first hearing at the Bandung District Court was tense. Arif and Dewey were dramatic, crying before the judge, claiming they were dutiful son and daughter-in-law, and that Amran had been manipulated by others. Amran's legal team, led by Pak Darman and Pak Budi Santoso, came thoroughly prepared. When it was Amran's side's turn, Pak Darman stepped forward and presented the evidence. Official health certificate from Dr. Mirza, confirming that Amran was in excellent mental and physical health at the time of the will signing, with exceptional cognitive test results. This effectively refuted the unsound mind claim. Nationally registered will, proof that Amran's will was legally registered in the National Registry System, making it nearly impossible to contest. Covert CCTV recording, transcript. Pak Budi played the audio recording of Arif and Dewey's conversation, calling Amran too much trouble and labeling him a minor stroke old man. The recording instantly shattered the dutiful child image they tried to construct. Transaction evidence and fund tracing report. This evidence showed the text/P 327 million had flowed into Dewey's personal account, used to pay car installments and buy electronics, not entirely for vacation costs, proving financial fraud. Evidence of social fund embezzlement. Most devastatingly, Pak Budi presented evidence of a text/spas 20 million transfer from the mosque account to Arif's private account, which was subsequently used to pay credit card debt, not for social programs. The judge and everyone in the courtroom were stunned. Arif and Dewi's faces immediately turned ashen. Tantania, who was present as a witness for Arif, bowed her head in profound shame. The judge decided to postpone the hearing, asking Arif and Dewi to provide strong counter-evidence. Naturally, they had no counter-evidence, as all the facts were in Amran's possession. 3 weeks later, before the second hearing could begin, Arif and Dewi requested a meeting with Amran. They came without a lawyer, just the two of them. The meeting was held in Pak Daman's office. Amran was accompanied by Pak Daman and Pak Budi. Arif began speaking with a trembling voice, tears flowing. "Dad, we beg for your forgiveness. We made a terrible mistake. We were careless. Please drop this lawsuit. Cancel the will, Dad, for Alia and Ilham. They don't deserve this." Dewi knelt before Amran. "We are sorry, Dad. We swear we will pay back all the money we borrowed. We will change. Please give us a second chance." Amran was silent for a moment, looking at them. He saw exhaustion in Arif's eyes and fear on Dewi's face. "Arif Dewi," Amran spoke calmly but firmly, "I have made that will. You said I was out of my mind. The judge will prove otherwise. You are not begging for forgiveness because you are remorseful. You are begging because you are afraid of losing the inheritance," Amran continued. "If you were sincere, you would have come a week ago, not after learning I had evidence of social fund embezzlement." Amran took a folder from Pak Daman's table. Inside was the detailed list of their debts. "I forgive you," Amran said. "I forgive you because you are my flesh and blood, and Dewi is my daughter-in-law. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting, and forgiveness does not come without consequences. I will not cancel the will. Everything written there will remain valid. This house, the land in Lembang, all the pension funds, none of it is for you. You will never receive a single rupiah of my assets." Arif stood up, his eyes filling with anger again. "Dad, this is too much. You choose strangers, street kids, retirement homes over your own son." Amran countered sharply. "The street kids, the retirement home, and the scholarship foundation never lied to me. They never manipulated me. They are more honest than you. And I have decided this inheritance is not to fund your extravagant lifestyle, but for the charity your late mother started." Amran then handed a thick envelope to Arif. "This is text / ARP 50 million + approx + $3,200 in cash. Consider this the last money I will ever give you as capital to start a new life. From now on, stand on your own 2 feet without my money. Return all the money you owe the mosque and start living honestly." Arif and Dewi were stunned into silence. They took the envelope. They knew this was the final sign of severance. Amran dropped his criminal report against Arif regarding the social fund embezzlement, on the condition that Arif immediately return the full mosque fund within 24 hours, which he did using a portion of the text/war 50 million Amran gave him. The will dispute was never taken to a second hearing. With the evidence indisputable, Arif and Dewi withdrew their lawsuit. They had lost everything. From that day on, Amran's relationship with Arif and Dewi was severed. Arif and Dewi moved out of town shortly after, perhaps out of shame. Amran remained in his house in Dago. However, the house was no longer quiet. He became active in the Kurdish Street Children Foundation he had named as the recipient of his house's legacy. Every afternoon, he taught reading and math to the street children there. Occasionally, Aliyah and Ilham came to visit him. They were dropped off by Amran's neighbors, with Amran's explicit permission. Amran spent time with his grandchildren, telling stories and teaching them to pray. He knew that his love for them should not be ruined by their parents' mistakes. One afternoon, Amran sat on the rocking chair on the porch, looking up at the sky. He smiled peacefully. He had lost Textor 600 million, he had lost his son, but he had found something far more valuable: his dignity and his inner peace. He had proven to himself that he was not a weak old man who could be played with. He had fulfilled his promise to City, ensuring that his good heart, which was once exploited, had now become a source of benefit for many people who truly needed it. The story ended there, not with sadness, but with relief and a brand new beginning. The end.